The date was October 16th, 2014, in the Lakewood apartment complex. It was a quiet afternoon. Suddenly, Danielle Nemitz's neighbors heard a loud crack break the silence. After the loud noise echoed through their house, everything went back to normal, but then there was a knock on the door. On the other side, someone was yelling, pleading, and beseeching for help. When the family opened the door to find out what was going on, Skylar Nemitz, Danielle Netz's husband, met them. He was clearly upset and scared, and he kept pleading with his family to call 911. The neighbors were completely caught off guard by this sudden outburst of sound and emotion. Before Skylar broke down, all he could say was, "It's Danielle. She's dead." Before we dive into the heartbreaking details of Danielle's story, if you're captivated by real-life mysteries, true crime stories, and want to stay updated on the latest cases, make sure to subscribe to our channel, Everything Crime. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know which case you'd like to see covered next. Now let's get into it. Danielle Ripien was born in San Francisco, California, on January 11th, 1995. Her sister's name is Ashley. Danielle has always been strong. Lizzie was 7 weeks along when she was born, and she weighed only 3 pounds, which is less than half of what she should have. It wasn't even clear to the doctor and nurses who helped Danielle be born that she would make it, but she did. Danielle was a pretty normal kid after she was born. For a while, you see, Danielle's mom, Elizabeth, died of cancer when she was only 2 years old. That was the moment when Danielle's whole life changed, even though she was too young to understand what death meant. Scarlett Ripien, Danielle's grandmother, stepped up as her guardian and took care of her until she was 14. But when Danielle was 14, she would see someone else she loved die. Another person. Scarlett died of old age, and Danielle was very sad. This time, Danielle realized how cruel death really was, and she felt very alone and lonely. Danielle would later move in with her stepfather, Michael, who legally became her father. He would soon die, though, which was sad. Danielle took a lot of hits, and they all made her want to be loved and have her own family from a very young age. Life was very unfair to Danielle, but she didn't give up her will to fight. Danielle was like a breath of fresh air to her friends. Some of her friends even say that the phrase "small but mighty" was made just for her. Even though Danielle had a lot of bad luck, she kept going and put a lot of her energy into cheerleading, which was her favorite hobby. But Danielle really wanted stability more than anything else. Danielle had a big family with many siblings, but all she wanted was to fit. And Danielle's cheer coach said that she would always think of her boyfriend's family as her own because it was the only thing that was stable in her life. Danielle met the person who would become her forever when she was in her senior year of high school. Skylar Nemitz was his name. Skylar had just graduated from high school and was now 19 years old. He had joined the Army and was about to leave for basic training in Georgia. They first met at a high school football game in Northern California on October 4th, 2012. They added each other on Facebook and started messaging each other after a while. They couldn't be apart. Danielle and Skylar both fell in love at first sight and knew they wanted to spend the rest of their lives with this person. Skylar and Danielle's relationship grew so quickly it was crazy. In just a few weeks, Danielle moved in with Skylar, and Danette, his mom. Skylar asked Danielle to marry him on top of a mountain on their first Christmas together. Danielle said yes with tears in her eyes, and their future was set. Skylar and Danielle got married on March 7th, 2013, a few months after Skylar finished his basic training. This was Danielle's wish. She finally had her own family. It was small, but it made her feel like she belonged and was loved. So it was perfect. Danielle and Skylar were very happy when they got married. David taught Danielle how to drive, and the two of them lived in Lakewood, Washington, while David was stationed at Fort Lewis. Danielle finished high school and got a job at a local countertop store after she got married. Danielle loved doing makeup and wanted to open a nail salon, so it made sense that she started a YouTube channel. https www.youtube.com, youtube.com at Danielle88494, where she would post videos about beauty as any other couple. They also got 2 cute dogs. They also wanted to travel the world before they settled down and had more children. The case took place at a time when Danielle's sister Ashley was about to give birth. Danielle was very excited to be an aunt. Danielle would not get to meet her niece or nephew, which was very sad. She also wouldn't be able to start her own family. The terrible day was October 16th, 2014, just over 2 years after she married Skylar. She was found dead in her home. Skylar was going to be gone for 3 weeks for field training in Yakima, Washington. In September 2014, Danielle was going to stay home with their 2 dogs. On October 16th, Danielle FaceTimed her best friend, Michaela Yingling, all day. During the call, Danielle seemed very excited for Skylar to finally get home. She even put candles around the house to show how happy she was. She did her things like bathing the dogs and getting the house ready for Skylar to come home. She was getting ready when Skylar texted her and asked her to get a certain bottle of rum and whiskey for the night. You see, Skylar wasn't allowed to drink on the base during this field training operation. That's why he asked Danielle to buy him alcohol since he was coming home around 4 p.m. Danielle saw Skylar again and FaceTimed Michaela again. Skylar joined the call and said hello to his wife's best friend. At that moment, everything looked great. Of course, that was the last time anyone saw Danielle alive. Less than 15 minutes later, Danielle and Skylar's neighbors called 911 in a panic. The neighbors say that a frantic Skylar begged them to call 911. During the call, the neighbors told the operators that they heard a lot of noises and banging coming from the Namtee's home. Skylar then told the operators that his wife had hurt herself while cleaning a rifle. To give you some background, Skylar and Danielle were both crazy about guns. They would often hang out at the firing range and try out different guns. This was something they often did on date nights. The couple didn't have much time to themselves because Skylar was always training, so this was how they spent time together, and they both loved it anyway. When Skylar joined the Army, his gun collection grew to 15. For Danielle's 19th birthday, Skylar gave her a blue automatic rifle, which happened to be the rifle she was cleaning when it went off by accident. When the police and emergency services got to the room where Skylar said Danielle was, they were shocked and couldn't say a word. Danielle was slouched over on a table and not moving at all. Her computer was in front of her and she had been fatally shot. The detectives had no idea what was going on. They needed answers quickly, and the first person they talked to was Skylar, who had recently lost his wife. She was the only person who could have seen this horrible attack. When the police got there, they found Skylar near his car. He looked upset. He was slouched and looked like he was crying, but what the police saw was that Skylar wasn't obviously crying. His eyes were closed tight and his face was twisted, but he wasn't crying. He was just making sounds like he was crying. The police began questioning Skylar because they really wanted to know what happened at the Namtee's house that killed Danielle. However, this is where Skylar began to tell a story that was very different from what he told the neighbors on the 911 call. From what he heard, Danielle was on her computer and Skylar was cleaning the gun. Even though the magazine was broken off, he didn't know that the gun still had 1 bullet in it. While he was working on the gun that was aimed right at Danielle, he accidentally pulled the trigger, which sent a bullet through Danielle and killed her instantly. And tragically, because of this, the police had even more doubts, so they decided to put Skylar in the police car and take him to the station. Skylar was emotional in the car, which was full of recording devices. He told Danielle he loved her over and over again and asked God to forgive him. He would go from crying about how his career might be over to yelling Danielle's name and saying things like, "I didn't mean to do it." Sometimes Skylar would be crying but not have any tears on his face, and other times he would be very serious and alert, especially when the police wanted to question him. The detectives were now sure that Skylar wasn't really upset and emotional. He was just putting on a show. From the station, Skylar's stories kept getting different whenever he was questioned. Something would be different from what he had said before. Every time Skylar spilled something, it was different. It didn't matter where the magazine was, when he was cleaning the gun, how the shot was fired, or who was holding the gun. 8 times to be exact. Skylar changed his story while being questioned for 5 hours. It was making the police lose their minds. The police knew Skylar wasn't telling the truth. He was just making up stories about how he shot his wife by accident, or how his wife shot herself by accident yesterday. Skylar finally changed his story 9 times. On his 10th try, he said that he was the one who pulled the trigger and even pointed the gun at Danielle, but he didn't know the gun was loaded to begin with. Why would someone point a gun at their family or friends if it wasn't armed? Second, the wound on Danielle's head showed that the gun was pointed at her from close range. Everything made people think of something terrible and dark. Did Danielle know Skylar was holding a gun so close to her? It's so scary to even think about it. As for whether Danielle meant for it to happen or not, she might not have known what was going on behind her. Meanwhile, while Skylar was at the station, a few police officers called Danielle's family and friends to tell them about her untimely death and to find out more about Skylar and Danielle's relationship. The police believed that the couple's marriage was not as good as it seemed. They were right, because many of Danielle's friends came forward with details, and let's just say that Skylar was not on a nice list. Michaela, Danielle's best friend, was the first person to speak up. She said Skylar always made her feel weird. He swept Danielle off her feet as soon as they met. This isn't a big deal in and of itself, but Michaela thought Skylar should have spent more time getting to know her. Since she and Danielle were so close, you might or might not agree with her, but that's how she felt. Michaela also said that Danielle would be closely watched by Skylar, who wouldn't let her hang out with her friends and wouldn't even let her spend money without his permission. But if I'm being honest, the money thing could have been because they were short on cash. I think that's a bit of a stretch. Another man, James Peltier, was like a father figure to Danielle. He had only met Skylar once, if you can call shaking his hand and walking back to his car. Meeting this was definitely a little strange. No one liked how Skylar didn't try to get to know Danielle's dad. Figure now, there's a reason for every story. For instance, I didn't spend much time getting to know my wife's parents before we got married because I knew they were bad people. I'm talking about people who were found guilty of crimes and never changed their ways. In the case of Danielle, though, that was not the case. The next piece of information is a little harder for Skylar to get out of. Check this out. James also told the police that Skylar hit Danielle during a fight and broke her phone. Danielle also told James that Skylar was very violent and physical, especially when he was drunk, which really scared James to his core. Danielle was also left alone by Skylar, who made her clean the house all the time after they were married for a while. Danielle's friends noticed that she didn't have that spark or light in her eyes anymore. She was stiff. Her smiles were fake, and she always had to ask Skylar for something to make things worse. Skylar thought Danielle was cheating on him. He thought Danielle was cheating on him with Michael Newton, her boss, even though there wasn't a single piece of evidence to support this. Then, while the police were looking into it, a woman named Carrie F. went to the station and told them all about Skylar and Danielle's not-so-perfect marriage. Carrie got to know Danielle pretty well because her husband worked with Skylar at the countertop store. It turned out that Skylar was not only controlling and manipulative, but he also hurt Danielle physically. Carrie told the police that Danielle had to cover up the bruises on her arms with long-sleeve shirts. All of the bruises were caused by Skylar. Skylar was very worried about Danielle's boss, Michael, and Carrie told the police about him. Michael, Danielle's married boss, was said to be pretty by Carrie, but that was All she said, Danielle never broke the rules at work, and Michael and Danielle only talked about work-related things. But what did Skylar think? Of course not. He was sure Danielle was seeing someone else. Jeremy was an old friend of Danielle's from high school, and he even said she was having an affair with him. Now Jeremy and Danielle did get together, while Skylar was in Yakima for training. But it was just to hang out as friends. Skylar, on the other hand, was very insecure and thought Danielle was cheating on him whenever she even breathed in the direction of another man. I can't even imagine how hard it must have been for Danielle to deal with Skylar's bad behavior now that everyone knows how Skylar and Danielle's relationship is getting worse. Let's get back to the investigation. The police had just gotten a ballistics report which showed some very strange things in the first place. The bullet's path did not match what Skylar said happened. Danielle would have been hit in a different spot by the bullet if Skylar's gun had been on his waist, as he said in a previous statement, but the way the bullet went through the air showed that the gun had to be at shoulder height for Danielle to be hit in the back of the head. So this proved that Skylar was lying, plus the fact that the gun was pointed so close to Danielle while she wasn't looking makes things even scarier. Another pretty bad injury Skylar had was on the index finger of the hand he used most. He did everything with the same hand, even held guns. He might not have gotten this injury from cleaning a gun, but he might have gotten it from firing one. With all of this evidence and even some angry text messages between Danielle and Skylar that showed how unstable their relationship really was, the police charged Skylar Nemitz with killing his wife Danielle in the first degree and arrested him. He had a $1 million bond to stay in Pierce County Jail. The charges against Skylar were thrown out and he was waiting to be tried. The trial began on January 21st, 2016, which was about 2 years after Danielle's death. What I find so strange is that Skylar's mother stood by his side the whole time, even though there was a lot of evidence against him, and this broke my heart to see. No matter what, I'm sure every mother would, but his mom, Danette, really thought and hoped her son was innocent. She even sold her house, car, and pricey jewelry to pay Skylar's bail to help her son's defense. She hired Michael Stewart, who is one of Washington's best defense lawyers. The prosecution used statements from Danielle's family and friends, the ballistic analysis, and Skylar's very strange behavior after Danielle's death as proof. The prosecution said that a soldier with a lot of experience who knew guns inside and out couldn't accidentally fire a bullet that hit Danielle. To give you some background, Skylar handled a gun for the first time when he was only 4 years old. That in itself was crazy, but that's a different story. Anyway, he first used an automatic rifle, the type of gun that killed Danielle, when he was only 14. That's how he learned how to handle guns, take them out of action, and make them safe for cleaning or even regular checks. He had done it for many years. The prosecution tried to persuade the jury that Skylar lost his cool after yet another argument with Danielle about cheating on him and shot her once when she wasn't looking. They also said that Skylar wasn't sad about the death of his wife, the love of his life. Instead, they said he dumped all the alcohol that he had asked Danielle to buy for him down the sink while he was on trial. Skylar kept trying to hide how he felt, but he was really bad at it. He would act like he was crying, but he never did. His voice would never shake, and he would never show any signs of real emotion. There was no sadness or regret in this man's eyes for what he did. One thing the defense did, though, was try to get the first-degree murder charge dropped. Michael Stewart told her that Skylar didn't mean to kill his wife. It was a terrible accident, and Skylar was only slightly to blame for the death. For 1 month the trial went on, and at the end the jury ruled Skylar was found guilty of first-degree manslaughter on March 3, 2016, but not of first-degree murder. The prosecution failed to persuade the jury that Skylar killed his wife on purpose. This was a terrible scene in court, but things were even worse for Danielle's family and friends. Skylar Nemitz got the harshest sentence possible for the charge on March 25, 2016, which was 13.5 years in prison he is supposed to be freed in 2029, but Skylar's case came up again at the end of July 2020. He said that the manslaughter charge got him the harshest sentence possible, but that his young age wasn't taken into account. The lawyers for Skylar said that his sentence was a complete miscarriage of justice. It was said that the jury didn't take into account how young and immature he was when they gave him the harshest sentence possible, but accident or no accident do. I need to remind you that this horrible person is in prison for 13.5 years for killing his wife. Skylar's defense team said that the jury didn't understand that being careless is the very hallmark of youth. Even though he did act carelessly, so does the defense mean that a young person can kill someone in cold blood and not get in trouble for it, because young people are usually careless and immature. Thank goodness the jury didn't agree with this appeal and made it clear that being young and careless doesn't give anyone permission to commit horrible crimes. That means Skylar will have to stay locked up until 2029. Danielle's family took Skylar's sentence very badly. It took 13.5 years, which is not even close to enough time to give Danielle what she deserved. She died so cruelly at the hands of her abusive husband. Even though James wasn't Danielle's real child, he loved her very much. James remembers Danielle running through the front door and giving him a bear hug as one of his favorite times with her. James is very sad because he will never see or hear Danielle's voice or see her smile again. Ashley, Danielle's sister, wanted to see her grow up, have kids, and live a happy life with her partner. Sadly, Ashley would never get to see that happen because her short 19-year life was cut short by someone she thought would be there for her no matter what. On October 26, 2014, a candlelight vigil was held for Danielle. People shared touching and happy stories about how she changed so many lives just by being herself. It's so sad and heavy that a monster who killed his wife out of jealousy, control, and manipulation got such a light sentence for it. Danielle fought hard even though the odds were against her. She came out smiling. It's so sad to think that she had to die that way for no reason. There is no good news in this situation. It only hurts and makes you lose hope. Danielle died for no reason, and the person who killed her isn't even getting the punishment he deserves. Thank you for watching today's video on this chilling true crime case. Thank you for watching today's video on this heartbreaking true crime case. If you found it insightful, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to Everything Crime for more real-life stories. Let us know your thoughts or any cases you'd like to see covered in the comments below. Stay tuned, stay safe, and always remember, the truth is often just a story waiting to be told.